everyone, this is Annie and I'm introducing our latest new stamp. This is ZAC, the policeman stamp, and it comes with 2 sentiments. The digital background with the police line do not cross tape I'm going to offer as a free digital stamp for you guys. You can come out and buy to the website or our Facebook group to grab it. But now let's go ahead and get our coloring started. So we're going to start with our skin tones. And we're going to just do his arms and his neck first, and then we'll get into his face in a little bit. So we're using our normal color skin tones that I gravitate to and seem to always use on my projects. We first colored with E000, then we went with E04 in our darkest spots, and now we're blending that out with our E02. And then we're going to go over that with our E00. We're just trying to get a smoother blend here. And then we go back to our E000 and just blend it all together to get a nice shading on those arms. And now we're going to begin his face, and we're just going to lay down the color of the E000 just so that our paper is starting to get saturated, so when we add the other colors it'll blend better. So we're just randomly coloring his face in quickly. And now we're going to grab our E04, which is our darkest color. And we're just adding where we think our shades are going to go. And I just typically do this under their hairline and then down the sides of their cheeks. If they have ears, I put a little bit on their ears. And now with our E02, we're just going to blend out that E04. So we're basically coloring right on top of the E04 and then extending it a little bit beneath so that we can start to blend it out. Now with our E00, again, just going on top of what we already colored and just continuing to blend it down further into his face area. Now we're bringing in some cheek color, so that's our R22. And that is our darkest for the cheeks, and that goes up higher on the cheekbones, and then we blend that out with our R20, going up towards the hairline and then towards his mouth area, so the darkest color is in the middle of the cheek. Now that had a harsh line, so we take our E00 and we just kind of lighten those edges a little bit, and then our E000, trying to blend it all to get a better flow of the color where it's all a little bit more seamless. And you can really use any skin tone colors that you want. I just happen to gravitate to these ones the most, so they're my go-to colors for skin. So I just added a little bit more into the cheek color, and I'm just blending it out. Sometimes you have to go over the cheeks a few times to actually make it stand out so it doesn't get washed out into the skin tone. Just popping a little pink into his tongue area. Sorry I didn't write them down. Those are usually RVO2 and RVO4. Sometimes I'll use the 6, but that's up to you. And there's his skin. And now here comes my favorite part, which is going to be starting his hair. So we're going to start off with our YR27, just lay some flicks of the color of where his hairline is. He doesn't have a ton to color, so it's going to go really quickly. I'm just putting in some random lines, and then I'm going to go over all of that with my Y11. And I just want to add a little bit of a contrast to it, so I'm going to take my E25 and just put on the edges and in the root areas where I think the darkest of the color should be, which is generally going to always be underneath whatever's covering the hair. So in this case, it would be the brim of the hat and then down on the bottom. And then we just go back with our Y11, just to blend those three colors together to get a really nice overall feel. And that's his hair, easy as can be because there's not that much of it to color. So he's a really good one to practice with. So now we're gonna, I'm gonna start on his uniform, and we're gonna do his, the blue colors of his uniform, which is gonna be the hat and his shirt. And I wanted kind of a powdery blue, so I always have to start with, I didn't know what colors to use, so these were trial and error, but we finally, you know, got it going. So here we go. We are just filling in his hat here, and I believe that is B34, because at this time I didn't know what my darkest B was going to be, and then I added B37, which you'll see more towards the end. So that was B34. Now we're going to our B32. So we're going from darker to light. Just blending that out. And now we're going to grab our B41, which is actually our lightest color, even though it's a higher number, it's in a different range. And that's just going to make the end area here a lighter blue. Now, I didn't think it had that much of a contrast, and that's why I went back with the B37, and I put that on the top area of his hat. I really wanted it to look blue, so I just added a little bit of contrast here, but then it was too stark, so of course then you have to go back and blend that darker color out. And so we took our B34 again, and we are now blending out that B37. Then we're doing our B32 on top of our B34. And now we're going to grab our B41. And now you can see that there's a better range of the blues in that hat. And that is what I was going for and what I really wanted. So that B37 really just added that contrast that I was looking for. And now we're going to use the same colors, and we're now going to do his shirt. Now, since I know about the B37 being the darkest contrast, I'm going to start with that on the shirt, which I didn't know it when I was doing the hat. And I'm just laying down where I think the folds and the creases are going to be for his shirt. And there's not a whole bunch. And then I'm going to blend that out with my B34. And his shirt is a small little area, so you know, you can't blend out too far because then you'll end up coloring the whole shirt. So these are very small little strokes that I'm doing. There's my B32, and I'm just trying to bring out each layer of color a little bit further so you actually can see the gradient of the dark going into the light. And there's our lightest color, the B41, which is going to fill in the rest of the shirt there. And there we have his uniform blues. Now we need to go into his uniform blacks, which is going to be the brim of his hat and his pants. So let's get started on that. And what I used on these, I used my my warm grays. And so we're going to do the brim of his hat. And again, this was a trial and error. How I first started coloring it, I ended up not liking it. And then you'll see I'm going to change the technique a little. So at this time, I was just kind of doing a gradient color, going from my darkest warm gray to the lightest. And you'll see that it really did not get the effect that I wanted. So I'm not even really going to explain what I'm doing here because I ended up covering most of it up. Sorry about that, but you know, coloring sometimes is a trial and error, and you think you're going to do something one way and then you find out not right, and then you have to do a quick cover up with other things. So here I am, like I said, just trying to do a gradient, and it just did not give me, you know, the look I was looking for the brim of the hat. So I ended up switching, doing a flicking motion to give it more like it had a bit of a shine to it. And you'll see that's what I'm doing here now. I'm flicking from the outer farthest edge towards the center with my darkest color. And now I'm going in with the second darkest. And I just keep going in a little bit each time. So it'll end up kind of looking like he has a little bit of a shine to his hat with the lightest color in the center. And then the actual center part of his brim hat, I did the same technique, just with all the darker dark colors, starting with the black as the darkest, so that the top and bottom part of the hats are more of the warm grays, and then the center part of the hat has the black with the warm grays. So it's hard to see in the photo, but it is two different colors on that hat there. And now we're going to use the same colors, and we're going to go and we're going to start doing his pants. And the reason why I chose the warm grays is because I wanted it to look, you know, like he was wearing black police pants, but you can't straight up use black because then you lose the lines of the stamp. So I'm going in there with my W9, and I'm kind of just making folds into his pants and the creases, and now I'm just going to start blending it out. And now we're with our W7, and I don't know how this just turned into a speed coloring video, sorry about that. But now we're going into our W6. And now our W3. And there's the illusion of black pants, even though they're tipped, really gray. Okay, so now we're going to do his utility belt, and because that is usually also black, but if I did black on black or the warm gray on the warm gray, you really wouldn't have been able to see and differentiate that they were different colors. So now I switched over to my cool grays, my C colors. So we're starting with our C6, and I'm just putting in the areas where the little shadows would be, which is under the flaps of all the parts on his utility belt. Then we're going in with our C3 and just blending that line out a little bit. And then we're just coloring everything over with our C1. So there's very little coloring on here actually. And then he has a belt buckle, so we're doing Y19. Then we forgot that he has a tie, so we just used the same colors and just quickly colored up his tie in gray as well. And now we're going to get started on the next section, which is the little badge on the top of his hat. And we're just using our Y19. And then going with an E25 just on the outer edges, just to give it a little bit of depth. And then back with the Y19 to blend that out. And then the Y13, which is our lightest color. And you can see it kind of looks like it's got a shadow on it. And I thought it came out pretty cool looking. And now we're going to go and do his shoes really quick, which we just chose. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's pop in a little red color on. I guess that's his mace can. So now let's do his shoes, which we're going to do with E23 and E27. So starting with our E27, the darkest areas. I'm sorry, that was E23. Now we're going over with E27 in our darkest areas and just giving it a little bit of depth, blending it out. And then we're just going to use our black and just do the soles of the bottoms of the shoe. it's time to start coloring up that background. So we're going to start and we're going to do the yellow police line do not cross tapes, which is kind of fun. So I'm just coloring this in with my Y13, and I'm just really just going quickly just to fill in the whole entire tape in a Y13. Just making sure I get good coverage. And then taking my Y19 and just adding a little bit of a secondary yellow color there so it stands out a bit. And we're just going on the tops and bottoms of these tapes. Just to make it pop out a little bit more, giving it a little bit more depth as opposed to just that solid yellow. Now we're going to take our E25 and we're just going to add a thinner line on the tapes here, especially where they cross over, so it gives it a nice little depth that you can tell that one is sitting on top of the other. And it's a really cool effect when you see it, so it doesn't look flat. And I just got to blend it out, so we're going back to our Y13 and we're just blending those two other colors into our solid yellow that we first laid down on the bottom. And it was quicker for me to use the broad tip, so I just switched over and just kind of squishing it all around. Just continue the process on all three of these ones, and then we're going to do the tops in a minute. And you can start to see the depth because of those three colors being blended together and how it looks like they are sitting on top of one another. So now we're going to start with the top ones. Let me flip that, okay. And again, just starting filling them all with the Y13. Again, I'm just using my broad tip just so I can get it, the color to lay down so that I'll be able to easily blend it. And there's our Y19 again, just to add some depth to the tapes. And our E25. Put that down on the bottom here to get that shadowy type effect to make it stand out just a little bit and really make them pop and have a little bit more dimension than just flat yellow rectangles. Okay, now I'm just blending out that E25 with my Y19. And this is a great new stamp that we're offering. A lot of people always message me and say that there's not enough boy stamps, and we kept that in mind when we were designing for 2018 and got you a boy stamp so you can make some cute cards. So let's just doing the same technique I did on the bottom ones again with that Y13. Just really gotta blend it out good so that brown line just doesn't look like you stuck a brown line on the bottom. You really need to blend it to get that going. Just take a quick once over where some places still needed a little more yellow. we go. I think it's looking pretty good. Okay. Now the white is so stark, so we want to make him look like he's grounded on something. So I'm just quickly using a couple of my C's, my cool grays, to make him look like he's at least standing on something. I'm sorry I didn't write these colors down, but I just chose 3 random cool gray colors and then just did dark to light and blend it out here. That's all we're doing here, so it looks like he's actually standing on something, because it just was too stark. And I still think it's a little too stark, so we're gonna have to fill up some of this white space. So let's just blend this so it's not stark, and then we can start figuring out what we're gonna do with this background here. So we are going to take a pretty purple color, since I believe 2018, the color of the year is some shade of purple. Figured let's add some purple in here. And I think purple and yellow look pretty together anyway. So I was just testing out because I didn't know at that point what I wanted to do. So we decided on our violets. So we are using our V04, and we're just basically outlining ZAC here with a pretty thin line, nothing too drastic, because it's gonna blend out further and further, so you don't want him to have too much of that dark purple. Now we're going over that V04 with our V01, and we're going right on top of that line that we just created to soften it and then extend it to blend it out. So now you can see that it's getting further away from his body. Almost looks like a purple shadow at this point, but we're going to continue to blend it out. And now with our lightest color, our V000, and it's just softening as we go further along. Now we're going to do the same on the opposite side of his body. So he has like a purple haze, just because that stark white was just way too stark for my liking. And if you've ever seen any of the cards I make, I barely ever keep stark white on my cards. So just repeating the process. That was V04, now we're going in with our V01. Just keep extending it further out and blending it so it gets softer and softer. And then you can actually see from the right side to the left how much softer it looks on the side we've already completed. And we're just going to make this one match that now with that V000. Soften and blend out as we go. It was just still white, so I just wanted to extend it so it wasn't just a haze in the shape of ZAC. I want it to actually taper off and blend into the background of the card. So I'm just going further and further away. And then I realized, well, we can't have stark white underneath these police tapes, so I need to add some of the purple in here so at least it's a little bit more cohesive and it's just not on the image area. So that's all we're doing, same colors, just adding it into the different areas so the card is more uniform. And And this was not something I expected to do when I designed this card. It's just one of those things is as you're coloring, you find what works and what doesn't work, and you just kind of figure it out as you go, what you can do to improve it and make it a little bit better than it was 5 minutes ago. And just a little bit more on the top here. And we don't want obviously the whole background to be, you know, purple. We want some of that white still in there, and that's why you'll see we don't extend it all the way to the full part of the card. Just enough to give it that haze, so it's just not so stark. And adding it actually just makes the tape pop out even more like it's 3D-ish, and I'm really happy with how it was coming along, which you'll see in our finished product at the very end of the video. And when I do hazes like this, and I like them to blend out as best as I can, and I don't like that it looks like, well, there's the end of that purple line. Even though it's a very, very light purple, you can always just tell where the purple, whatever color actually is that you're using, ends, and then your paper underneath is. So I always take my blender marker, and you'll see I just kind of circle motion where the end of the haze colored marker and the white of my cardstock matches, and it just makes it blend even better so it's more seamless. I think it looks good. I love this stamp. I think he's adorable. Okay, so let's see. Let's just add a couple accents. I always, when I do his skin, I always go over the eyes too much. So I always just take a white gel pen to make that circle part around his eye a little bit more detailed and clear. So there's my white gel pen. This is when I would add polka dots or whatever else I want to do with my gel pen. So now that it's colored and completed, we need to cut it out into our card shape. So this is a die from Lawn Fawn. It's one of my favorite card mat dies, and I use it all the time. So we are just running that through our Big Shot, and there you have your A2 sized card to now put onto a card base. And I hope you liked on my video. Bye.